Hello everybody, happy to have you here at the My Media Museum for part 20 of our 45 RPM vinyl records A to Z collection. I made a slight goof at the end of the last one and said that we were halfway through the second box. We're halfway through the third box out of 7, so we're moving right along here. It's going to take more than probably about 50 episodes to cover them all, but we'll get there. Starting off with Foreigner, Dirty White Boy. I'm a dirty white boy. Love that song. Love Foreigner's early work. They could do no wrong up to about the fourth album, in my opinion. The B-side being Rev on the Rev Line. Rev on the Red Line, which is another great song off of Head Games, which was a really, really good album. Next up, we've got Picture Sleeve, which I'm sure this was covered in our Picture Sleeves because I do remember it. There's 3 Picture Sleeve batches of videos on the channel. If you want to go to the channel's homepage and look for them, find them there. There's lots of Picture Sleeves that I have filmed to share with you. This one has a double vision on the A side, and the B side was Lonely Children. Both of those songs were off of Double Vision. And the next one we've got is again from Double Vision, and Hot Blooded, check it and see. I was really disappointed when they did the records, their first best of, and they put a live version of Hot Blooded on there instead of the original. I like the original version much better than the live version on the greatest hits, so for my playlist I've swapped them out. So if I listen to records on my little media player at work, I'm going to hear the studio version, not that yucky live one. But the B-side on this was a song called Tramontane. Good luck with that one. I've done my best. All right, next up we've got an oldies series, reissue of Hot Blooded, which you just saw. Hot Blooded, the original. But the B-side on this one's going to be another A-side song, and it is Double Vision. So this is a cool 45 to have, especially if you didn't have the original Double Vision or Hot-Blooded 45s to begin with. Next up, we've got one of my favorite Foreigner songs on a picture sleeve. It's interesting, it was off of number 4, but they did number 3 here. My guess is maybe it was the third single off of that album. And here on the back you'll see there's the original Foreigner 4 album cover, and then you've got the original first album, Double Vision, and Head Games covers there. And here is the label for Jukebox Hero. I'm a jukebox hero, stars in his eyes, and the B-side being Nightlife. And both of those were on Foreigner 4, as was the next song that we have here to share with you, Urgent, which I worked with a guy who absolutely hated this song, and I didn't understand that because I thought it was a pretty darn good song. I myself didn't care for Waiting on a Girl Like You, and I Want to Know What Love Is. That was when I lost interest in Foreigner, when they got poppy and sappy, kind of like REO did. But I liked Urgent, thought that was a real good song. And Girl on the Moon being on the B-side. Next up, we're moving on from Foreigner to the Four Tops. It's the same old song, just a different beat since you've been gone. Your Love Is Amazing being on the B-side of that one, which isn't a song that I know as well, but it sounds like a pretty positive, happy title. And moving on, we've got Frankie Valli doing Can't Take My Eyes Off of You, 'cause you're too good to be true. The trouble with me being on the B. And next up, we've got a Frankie Avalon, not to be mixed up with Frankie Valli, and Venus. Hey Venus, and that's going back a few years. It's not dated here for us, but that Chancellor label and I'm just not sure when it was from, but it's definitely an older song. I'm Broke being on the B side of that, which isn't a song I recognize, but I do know Venus. And it's not the Hey Venus, yeah baby she's got it. That's a different song. All right, Gary Lewis, This Diamond Ring Doesn't Shine For Me Anymore. A little bit hard to see, a little bit hard to read. It's old, it's worn. Probably got some stacker wear there. And this B-side is nearly impossible, but it says Tijuana Wedding. Yeah, you can make it out getting the light just right. But it's Gary Lewis and the Playboys. All right, here's the one that takes me back to before MTV on PBS. There was a music video show. They'd use Led Zeppelin's Carousel and wah, 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 between commercial breaks. And Gary Newman's Cars video was very, very heavily played on there. And I remember this from there. The Pleasure Principle was the name of the album. And we're going back to 1979. And yeah, here in my car, I can something, something, something. In my car, do 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 do. And the B-side being a song called Metal. Now I don't remember the Pleasure Principle being that great of an album. I think I even actually picked it up one time on the strength of the song Cars, and pretty much I just like the song Cars. But yeah, it has fond memories for me. It definitely takes me back to that show on PBS before. That's back when we had 4 TV stations. A lot of you out there can't relate to that, but back in the day, we only had NBC, CBS, and ABC, and PBS. And PBS wasn't a 24-hour station. They only broadcast for certain hours of the day. So, anyways, moving on here, we've got Gary Wright with Dreamweaver. I think that was in Wayne's World as well. But this was from 1975, long before Wayne's World was ever even a skit, much less a movie. It's a great song, but I do think that it was used to quite a good effect in that movie soundtrack. B-side being a song called Let It Out. Yeah, I remember back in the day, getting back to the forced TV stations, I was the remote control. Your dad said, hey, get up and put it on 7. A lot of us of the older generation, we were remote controls. When our parents wanted to change the channel, they didn't get up. That's what you were there for. All right, here's I believe, an original Gene Autry doing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Had a very shiny nose, and there he is right there with his shiny nose right there on the label. So cool, huh? And the B-side of that was a song called If It Doesn't Snow on Christmas, which I don't know anywhere near as well as Rudolph, but definitely a double holiday-themed vinyl there for you. And next up, we've got Gene Simmons from his Kiss solo album, and his song Radioactive. It's radioactive. Not the same song that The Firm did. This was a completely different song, same title. But yeah, we were just looking at The Firm's Radioactive a minute ago, and I kind of sang it more than this one. I can't really sing this one for you. But you'll notice this is a promotional copy, not for sale. And this side is in stereo, and the B side has that AM radio mono version that they would have needed or wanted to broadcast on their mono station. I like the way it says side A being mono, but it's also side A being stereo. So there is no side B. It's a double A with the same song in 2 different mono and stereo versions. Anyways, George Clinton, Nubian Nut. This is a really bizarre looking picture sleeve. It's not a song I'm familiar with. I have heard of George Clinton, but I don't know this song, at least by title. Maybe if we threw it on and gave it a spin. This is one of those that's kind of painted on. It's not really a label. The label is painted directly on to the vinyl. You see that from time to time. It's not extremely rare. but Nubian Nut being your A side, and a song called Free Alterations being on the B side. And like I said, that label is not affixed, it's painted on. You can really see when you get to the grooves here how that was painted on and not affixed. Alright, next up we've got George Harrison, ex-Beatle, doing All Those Years Ago from 1981. So this was a few years after the Beatles, about 11 or so, maybe 12, and from his album Somewhere in England. And the B-side of that is a song called Writings on the Wall, which I am not as familiar with. But that is a pretty cool Dark Horse record label there. That was the record label that George Harrison started up on his own. You know, they had Apple Records together with the Beatles, and then he had Dark Horse Records on his own. Next one here, we've got Cracker Box Palace, which is about 5 years before that last one we were looking at, with 1976, off of 33 1/3 being the name of the album. And the B-side here being a song called Learning How to Love You. And we've got more George to share with you here. We've got My Sweet Lord, which is from All Things Must Pass, which was the very first album that he put out after leaving the Beatles. He had a lot of material because they weren't accepting a lot of the work that he had written. So some of the songs off All Things Must Pass even were recorded by the Beatles, and we finally got to hear those versions on Anthology 1 when it came out. But that was definitely a big album, double album set for George. With the B-side here being Isn't It a Pity, which was also a really good song. My Sweet Lord and Isn't It a Pity. He had a few really great songs on that album. And we'll start up part 21 with the last one of his that I have here to show you when we return. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you then.